Hi guys, Blake here with Lilley's Landing Resort and Marina. It is Saturday, November 23rd, 2019. I have boated up here. I'm just below outlet 1 right now. Today I'm going to be throwing a stick bait. This is the rainbow suspending stick bait that we sell in the shop. I am fishing that on 6-pound Berkley Vanish fluorocarbon line, and I have a size 12 snap swivel there. Medium action 6-foot rod. This is just kind of the outfit that I like to use whenever I'm throwing the jerk bait. Right now they're running about 3 generators worth of water. I took a look at the temperature on the screen a second ago, and it was at 55.1 degrees. So it's in the last week it's dropped about 1.5 degrees. Turbidity of the water is still about the same. Lake is still flipping over. Get about 3 foot of visibility. Hasn't really affected the fishing much. Had lots of good fishing reports over this last week. People catching lots of fish, lots of nice chunky fish. We sent out quite a few boats today. One of the boats that came back said that they were throwing some orange suspending Rapala jerk baits, and that they did really well, and they caught a lot of fish that were 16-17 inches, and they said they caught one that was over 20. So right now I've got the trolling motor on anchor mode. I'm anchored right here in this little eddy below outlet 1. This is just one of the things you can do with the jerk bait. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to cast upstream, and I'm going to swing the jerk bait through this shallow flat in this eddy here. So let's get started. So I like to throw upstream and give it some room to swing. What I find doing with the jerk bait is you want to give it a lot of short pops, and then occasionally a pause, like a 1 or 2 second pause. What I do is I come up with a little rhythm in my head, like dun, 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 and you can come up with any rhythm you want, but come up with a rhythm, nice short quick pops, and then occasionally leave a nice 1 or 2 second pause behind your short fast action. When you're anchored and your bait finally swings back behind the boat, you can kind of let the current pull against it and give it occasional pop or two, and sometimes the fish that were chasing it will come up and swing at it, and that's what I'm doing right now. Just letting it flow in the current behind the boat. And I didn't get anything on that cast, so nothing officially on the first cast. Another thing to keep in mind whenever you're fishing the jerkbait is leave just a little bit of slack in your line, so that when you're popping it, you're not pulling on it too hard. If you pull on it too hard, it'll cause the bait to roll over on its side, and it won't give that nice fleeing bait fish look to it. You really want it to just jerk back and forth, side to side, in rapid succession. Pulling up and anchoring on these eddies is a good trick sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and take the anchor mode off, and we're going to drift down the bank. One of the things that I like to do, especially when I'm fishing a jerkbait that dives shallow like this one only dives 5 feet maximum, is fish in near the banks, especially when they're running this much water. Whenever they're not running very much water, you can get away with fishing out more towards the center with a shallow diving jerkbait, but when they're running this much water, they're down on the bottom or up against the bank. So when I'm working one that only dives 5 feet, I work my boat near the banks. I'm going to get out here so I can get a good cast at the bank. A lot of your bites when you're working the jerkbait against the bank are going to come in that first 20-30 feet. Now that's not to say that they won't chase it all the way to the boat, but I find that a lot of the hookups I get are in that first 20-30 feet. Got a bit of a wind coming against me now. Looked up the level of Table Rock and I believe it said it was at 917.2. So it is steadily dropping. Alright, just a little bit farther out here. I just talked to some guys on the dock who said that orange and white power bait was working really well this morning, and they're still catching a few right now on orange and white power eggs. Alright, so now I'm drifting at the speed of the current here, and I'm about halfway between outlet 1 and outlet 2. There's another little eddy that kind of comes out underneath this kind of little small shrub looking tree, and I am fishing inside of that eddy right now. When you're fishing the jerkbait, the rainbows are the ones that like that 1 to 2 second pause. You'll catch a lot more rainbows if you give it, if in between your, 7, 8, 10 pops, you give it a 1 or 2 second pause. But the brown trout don't like the pause at all. So if you're really trying to target a brown with a jerkbait, what you want to do is keep it moving that whole time. Those nice short jerks. Without stopping it all the way back to the boat, if you're trying to target a brown. Jerkbait fishing for trout is a method that may not produce the most fish in a day, but the ones that you do catch are either smaller, very aggressive fish or bigger fish. So if you're looking for the quality of fight or a bigger size but not worried about how many you catch, I do recommend giving the jerkbait a try. And this is something you got to watch out for. Whenever you get that thing going in the water, sometimes the line wraps around the hook. Getting ready to pass right in front of outlet 2. And this bank from outlet 2 to outlet 3 I really like. It's a nice sharp drop off from the bank down into the water, and the very edge of the bank tends to hold some fish. I think it's really important to leave that slack in the line, because like I said, if you're jerking it too hard, if you're popping it too hard, it will roll over on its side and it will not look natural to the fish. So don't be afraid to throw in a lot of continuous short pops next to each other in rhythm, and then give it a little pause. Oh no! So another thing that Dwayne has told me is if you're fishing the jerkbait and you're not hitting the rocks on the bank or a tree on the bank every once in a while, you're not fishing it hard enough. You really want to get right in from the bank and work that stick bait from the very edge of the bank out. Cool thing about fishing with one of these is even on a windy day, it's a bait that stays a little more under control underneath the water, even when the wind's blowing against your line. So if you're having trouble throwing something else on a windy day, try a jerkbait. Coming up here is this flat in front of outlet 3, and the way it changes underneath the water, I usually find quite a few fish there. I'm really hoping my mic's working right now. I actually just came up here about 30 minutes ago and tried it and got 15 minutes through the video and realized that that the mic had turned itself off and that the other one was out of batteries. Oh, and right in that flat I was talking about, right before outlet 3, I have hooked up with a fish here. And man, the way the trout strike these things is just incredible. You really get an aggressive level of fish fishing a jerkbait. This one is dragging line. Man, I like to try to keep my rod tip down when I'm fishing with these. It's funny, you'd think that, you know, if you can catch them on a tiny size 16 hook, that a treble hook would have no problem hanging on to them, but they find a way to really shake these treble hooks out of their mouth. So I like to keep my rod tip down and keep them from jumping up and throwing it. And this dude is I mean, he is just running. All right. Well, that's a beautiful fish. Another thing that's handy when you're fishing a jerkbait with treble hooks, pair of pliers. If you forget your pliers, it is very easy to accidentally hook yourself or have a heck of a time getting a fish off. And this guy's not very big, but man, he put up a heck of a fight. Very aggressive. Like I said, either smaller aggressive fish or bigger fish or what you catch on the jerkbait. Put him down in the water. All right. If we can do that again. Right now I'm fishing over a very shallow flat. It might be 6 foot deep right now with 3 units of water running, but you know, 6 foot area with a 5 foot diving jerkbait is just about right. Getting it down there in front of their faces. I'll look down at my mic and make sure it's still running. All right, good deal. I don't really waste any time getting to the action. As soon as that thing hits the water, I really try to get it going and kind of make it maybe look like a fish that had just jumped up and then continued back to swimming away. I know whenever I first started fishing jerkbaits, you know, it took me a while to kind of fine-tune my rhythm and my method. It started off with the first few times I didn't really catch any fish and I didn't really see any chasing it up. And then after a week or two of practice, I'd start to see them chase it up, and I'd try to stop it whenever I'd see them chasing it, and they'd turn around and stop following it. So, you know, play around with your rhythm, how fast you jerk it, how fast or how long you pause it, and eventually you'll find your rhythm and you'll start getting strikes. It's almost just as fun to watch them chase it up to the boat. Man, it was super chilly today when the sun was down. And it was getting to the point where you need to take a layer off. Oh, much better. If you're using really small jerk baits, this one's, you know, a medium-sized one. If you're using really small ones, I recommend using a 4 and even 2 pound test. If it's a, you know, a micro-sized jerk bait. I've got 6 on this one, and this is 6 pound, and that's about the biggest I'd go. I tried whenever I first started fishing jerk baits out here, I was using 10 pound tests, and then I tried 8 pound tests, but I saw that it kind of took away from that side-to-side action the bait's supposed to have. So 6 is about the heaviest I found that still allows it to really move nice and free back and forth. I'm going to take a few more casts and then I got to cut it off today. I like to work it almost all the way back to the edge of the boat, because there's so many times where they're following it, and if you keep the action going, they'll strike it right at the edge of the boat. But if you kind of stop the action you were doing and just reel it in, they'll turn and run back away from it. Sometimes they'll just follow it all the way up to the edge of the boat and hammer it. But I find that most cases, if you stop the action you were doing, then they turn around and leave. They turned the water down just a little bit. I'm starting to see a receding water line on the bank here. And this wind has come around that corner and really pushing me in towards the bank here. We're going to go down to the end of the boat ramp and call it a day here. Cast today, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again tomorrow.